Loud hubbub.
On behalf of the 1922 committee, the Right Honourable Dame Cheryl Gillan and I, as returning officers of the election for the leader of the Conservative and Unionist Party, can now declare the results of the third ballot. The total number of votes cast in today's ballot was 313. The total number of ballot papers rejected was 0. The total number of votes given to each candidate in alphabetical order were as follows: Michael Gove, 51. Jeremy Hunt, 54. Sajid Javid, 38. Boris Johnson, 143. Rory Stewart, 27. The following candidates are now eligible to continue on to the next ballot on Thursday, 20th of June at 10 a.m. Michael Gove, Jeremy Hunt, Sajid Javid and Boris Johnson.
So, a bit of a swing there, and Rory Stewart, who in many ways had set the campaign alight because he was different and interesting, has really had a bit of a fall. And I suspect Theo Usherwood, LBC's political editor, who's joining me, I suspect his, shall we say, slightly strange performance on the BBC debate last night hurt him very badly.
Absolutely. He was odd. He didn't manage to command the room. He was the man who needed to make opinions shift. It was up to him to do that, and instead he looked as if he was in the middle of a Pilates class. And that
took his tie off halfway through,
arching his back, couldn't cope with the lights, couldn't cope with the bar stool, and it's shown because he's lost 10 votes tonight, down from 37 to 27. Rather embarrassing, actually, that demise. Sajid Javid makes it through on 38, Michael Gove 51, Jeremy Hunt 54, and then Boris Johnson.
Surprisingly with Boris, again, and we said this yesterday, but I'll say it again today. I mean, Raab, who was the most Eurosceptic of the candidates, went out on 30 votes. They didn't all go to Boris, did they?
They didn't all go to Boris, and there are concerns within, there were concerns within Dominic Raab's camp that Boris Johnson simply won't be able to deliver on that promise to leave on October the 31st, and they don't necessarily see him as being the man to deliver Brexit. So some of them have gone elsewhere. I suspect they would have gone to Michael Gove, closed the gap slightly on Jeremy Hunt, with it now stands at just 3, and Sajid Javid on 38. So we've seen his support go up, but really the story is about the demise of Rory Stewart. And Team Boris will be very pleased with this result.
Yeah, they will.
They will be delighted with this result. They've got rid of one of the key threats, which was Rory Stewart, who would repeatedly launch personal attacks against Boris Johnson, and so they will be pleased with this result.
So the question now is, where do Rory Stewart's 27 votes go? That, I guess, is the question here. Do they go to Jeremy Hunt?
I would suspect they would go
more in that direction.
Jeremy Hunt or Sajid Javid. They are Remain votes. They are not necessarily going to be minded to back Michael Gove. We're talking people like David Gauke, the Justice Secretary. We're talking about people like David Lidington, the de facto Deputy Prime Minister, Cabinet Office Minister, and of course former Minister of State for Europe, a Remainer, an ardent Remainer before the European Union referendum. So I expect they will, and very establishment, Nigel, so they will go to those two candidates. I don't think Boris Johnson will see much uplift in the first vote tomorrow lunchtime.
Nor do I. And tomorrow lunchtime's vote, I mean, clearly there are 27 more votes up for grabs, and we do get swings, as we saw with Rory Stewart, but very difficult now for Sajid Javid to catch up, I would have thought, with Jeremy Hunt and Michael Gove.
So this is where I think it's going to get very interesting. Team Boris want to get rid of Michael Gove, and I think we could see that move happen tomorrow lunchtime. And the way it would happen...
And that's where tactical voting could come in.
This is where tactical voting is going to start in earnest tomorrow. So they've got rid of one that they wanted to get rid of, which was Rory Stewart. They now need to target Michael Gove. The best way to do that... And it's not, and given the numbers involved, it doesn't require that much of a shift, given that we can expect some of the Rory Stewart voters to go to Sajid Javid, and others will go to Jeremy Hunt. We could easily expect it would take 7 or 8 Boris Johnson supporters to simply go and tick the box for Sajid Javid with the uplift from a few of Rory Stewart's supporters, and he could supplant Michael Gove tomorrow lunchtime in third place. And if that happens, would be a victory for Boris at lunchtime. His team don't mind whether it's Sajid Javid.
And then we get the next result at the same time tomorrow night.
Yes. And we'd have a final two.
So, who's your money on? Is it going to be Hunt or Gove in the last two with Boris?
Money at the moment on Jeremy Hunt.
Okay,
I mean that's a prediction.
I know. I'm not going to hold you to it.
This is the most duplicitous.
Please, those listening, don't go straight to the bookmakers. It's just Theo's hunch. It's no more than that. There's no inside information, but it is interesting, isn't it? If when we get through tomorrow afternoon, and there is a choice, it's going to be Hunt or Gove versus Boris Johnson. And I think then and only then does the idea that 10 or 15 of Boris's supporters lend their votes to Jeremy Hunt, that's when it does come into play. And it could be very real.
I think they could go. We could see that earlier in the lunchtime vote to knock out Gove.
Yeah,
that's the fear is Gove, and I think you could see a move earlier when we get that result at 1 o'clock.
Yeah, great. Theo, thank you very much indeed. Rory Stewart has responded to his defeat by saying on Twitter, "I am so moved and inspired by the support I have received over the last few weeks. It has given me a new faith in politics, a new belief in our country. I didn't get enough MPs to believe today, but they will. I remain deeply committed to you and the country." Hashtag Rory walks on. Well, there you are. That's all quite positive stuff from Rory Stewart. But clearly, his vote down by 10 from the results we got last night. And I think his performance on the television last night just did not impress anybody. So tell me, what do you make of these scores tonight? What do you make of Stewart going down the way that he's done, given at this time yesterday he was looking a bit like the horse coming up on the rails, but a disastrous, I think it's fair to say, TV performance last night, although many feel and many think that actually in truth the whole debate last night did not go very well. And can I say, I really do want to say, that the BBC did not last night cover themselves in glory. What they did was to get a variety of people from around the country to go into local studios and to ask questions. Indeed, from Bristol, Abdullah Patel asked a question, one particularly aimed at Boris Johnson's article in the Daily Telegraph when he talked about women wearing burqas, looking like letterboxes, and Boris was questioned about this, and Boris apologised, of course, as he always does, for this. And then it turns out that actually Mr. Patel is an imam who has put out some, well, let's say allegedly anti-Semitic material, consequence of which he has been suspended from his job as a deputy head of a school today, and some really very strong reaction to this, because he was actually involved in Five Live's breakfast programme this morning, and long-term BBC presenter Nicky Campbell said, "I would like to apologise. We had the imam from a BBC Tory leadership debate on our programme this morning. His social media comments have been extremely disturbing. We should have checked. We didn't. I am sorry." But that wasn't all. I mean, the man that asked the last question, Aman Thakkar, well, actually, this guy, he's been working for the Labour Party's headquarters as a legal assistant. And what is so astonishing about this is that the BBC is funded to a tune of over £3 billion a year by your money, because you're effectively taxed £150 a year for simply having a television in your house. They've got hundreds of researchers. I mean, you go into the building, you've never seen so many people in any organisation in all your life, and yet, flooded with all of this money, they've done their job very inefficiently. They've done their job very, very badly. Let me ask you, are you happy with these final four? Who do you think is going to come through in the end to take on Boris Johnson, who is a cert to go through? Let me know on 0345 6060 973. Text your thoughts to 84850. Tweet any other ideas using the hashtag Farage and LBC, at LBC, and of course Facebookers, you can tell us what you think too. Let's go to John, who's calling from Hinckley in Leicestershire. Hi John, what do you make of those results?
Well, I'm glad Rory Stewart's out of the way.
Right, okay. He had a Bit of a collapse there, didn't he, really?
Yeah, I can't say I'm unduly worried about that. My bigger concern is perhaps with Boris. Of the Conservative people going forward, he's the one that I would have most confidence in delivering Brexit. But it's whether I have the confidence in him actually doing that.
What did you think of his answer to the questions last night?
I think they were wishy-washy.
That's a very polite way of putting it. I mean, frankly, John, at the moment, I can't quite work out how Boris's position is that much different to Mrs May's.
I don't think it's much different to that to Corbyn's either.
No, John, I think you made a very fair point. John, thank you. And John, a Boris supporter, saying he was worried, really, by Boris's, and he called wishy-washy responses last night. I could use ruder words. I won't, because it's only 6:15 here on LBC, a family programme. And it's now time for the news headlines with Thomas Watts.
Rory Stewart has been knocked out of the Tory leadership contest after a third round of voting by Conservative MPs. Boris Johnson again topped the ballot. Voting will resume tomorrow until the field is reduced to 2. Michael Gove and Jeremy Hunt, who remain in second and third place, will take calls live on LBC this evening. They'll be here with Ian Dale from 8 o'clock. Some light rain continuing in Wales, Scotland and Northern Ireland later, a low of 5 degrees.
LBC Travel, I'm J-Louise Knight, and it's being reported there's a 2-hour delay on the anti-clockwise M25 now between Leatherhead at 9 and Godson at Junction 6. Just after Junction 6, 2 lanes are shut because of emergency repairs. There's a 13-mile queue towards the scene. A police investigation has shut the entry slip onto the southbound North Circular at Ilford. That's causing some delays, and repairs to a gas leak in Chelsea have shut Lower Sloane Street southbound at Kings Road. On the tube, a fire alert at Green Park means the Jubilee line suspended from Finchley Road to Waterloo. There are severe delays on the District line from Wimbledon to Edgware, and on the trains, South Western are running a reduced service on the entire network because of the ongoing strike.
This is LBC.
Whether you're packing your swimsuit or your brolly, be proper prepared for whatever summer brings at Tesco Mobile. With double data on some of the very latest handsets from all the leading brands, like the Samsung Galaxy S10 Plus, and double data on selected SIM-only deals starting at just £10 a month. Get double ready for summer with double data. Go in store or search Tesco Mobile now. Tesco Mobile. Every little helps.
Contract applies. Offer ends 30th of June. Selected tariffs only. Full T's and C's at tescomobile.com/terms.
The Battle for PM. Follow it live on LBC.
Adventure, relaxation. Barbados has it all. So head off on an unforgettable holiday with British Airways. September flights and 7 nights hotel from $549 per person. Fly from Gatwick. Book by July 2nd at ba.com/Barbados and jet away to turquoise seas and that laid-back lifestyle. Barbados. No one takes you there like British Airways. Booking fees and conditions may apply. Limited availability. ATOL protected.
In the trade, sign up to Wix Trade Pro and get 10% off every time you shop with no minimum spend. Download the app to register. Always cheaper with Wix Trade Pro. Terms apply.
When you buy the award-winning Alfa Romeo Giulia or the Stelvio Performance SUV, you can pretend it's for the 5-year warranty, the 3 years free servicing, 5 years roadside assistance, or the 5 years 0% APR. But the real reason is, you just want an Alfa Romeo. Start something beautiful. Visit alfaromeo.co.uk.
5 years or 75,000 miles warranty. Minimum 35% customer deposit. 60 months term. HP sales until 30th of June 2019. T's and C's apply. Alfa Romeo Financial Services.
So, your accountant does your audit for you. Looks at your accounts, calculates your tax, stuff like that. But would you benefit from long-term advice? An expert to look at your business model and help your business grow? And most importantly, someone to look after you, the owner. At Barnes Rofe, our partners get to know their clients and want to become part of their team. Is it time to see what we can do for you? Arrange your free consultation at barnesrofe.com. Barnes Rofe. Clever accountants for business.
Psst! Did you know that Pimlico Plumbers have an utterly fabulous 24-hour service for plumbing, heating, drains, roofing, electrics, appliances, carpentry and building? Whatever your predicament, Pimlico Plumbers can send a friendly face to your door within the hour. Shh! And just between us, their work even comes with a 12-month guarantee. They aren't just any old tradesmen, they're Pimlico Plumbers, and they're always available on 0207 928 8888 or at pimlicoplumbers.com.
This is LBC, the Nigel Farage Show. Call 0345 6060 973. Text 84850. Tweet at LBC using the hashtag Farage on LBC.
Rory Stewart is out. His vote numbers collapsed by 10, and that is because he did not do well in last night's TV debate. The great debater did not do well when it came to a debate. Plus, of course, he was the most fervent supporter of Mrs May's deal, which had been rejected 3 times by the House of Commons. However, I look at all the other runners and riders, and they all seem to be supporting her deal with maybe some talk of renegotiation. So who do you want? Do you want to see Hunt taking on Boris? Do you want to see Gove taking on Boris? Are you surprised that of the 30 votes that were up for grabs from Dominic Raab, who was the toughest of the levers, only a smidgen over half of them went to Boris? Is Boris now becoming unconvincing to those who really do want to leave on the 31st of October? Give me your thoughts, 0345 6060 973. How can these candidates be Prime Minister? What a joke! I get anonymously by SMS. Rory Stewart was never a credible threat against Boris, says Phil in Thurrock. How can anyone vote Boris as our next Prime Minister after the way he fluffed last night on the BBC? He was a buffoon. He hasn't given us anything. Well, that may be slightly cruel to say that he was a buffoon, but I think the format didn't work last night. The barstool concept didn't seem to work very well last night. I might have done quite well in that format, you never know. The questioners were clearly, not members of the public, but somebody who's worked for Labour HQ, somebody who's a allegedly anti-Semitic imam. The BBC did not cover themselves in glory, nor did the candidates. But are you happy with the final 4? Roy, in Exeter, are you happy with the final 4?
No, not at all, Nigel, not at all.
Right, go on.
The whole thing is a stitch-up. It's all pantomime, isn't it, really? It's a shoo-in, really, for Boris.
Yeah.
I think Rory Stewart was an establishment decision by Gove. I think they're obviously working together. I heard that he spent breakfast with Gove yesterday morning.
That's been denied, although there was a lot of rumours, Roy. A lot of rumours that Rory and Gove were about to do a deal. And do you know what? They still might overnight, mightn't they?
Yeah, definitely. This shenanigans is going on left, right and centre here, Nigel. The reason why the imam was involved in the debate was that it was recommended by the Muslim Council of Britain.
Is that right?
Yeah.
But the point here, surely, Roy, and I've made it once tonight, I'll make it again, is the BBC, awash with billions of our money, hundreds of researchers, should have done some homework.
Oh, it only took 2 minutes on Google to find out this guy's previous.
Exactly.
You didn't need Twitter at all. They knew exactly what was going on. The whole thing was a setup. It was an assassination job on Boris, essentially. They chose the weaponry, the ammunition, and fortunately shot themselves in the face doing it.
And kind of Boris survived it, didn't he?
Indeed. The public know, anyone with an ounce of sense knows this is a stitch-up.
What did you make of Boris's performance, Roy?
Not great, not absolutely fantastic at all.
Roy, are you a Tory party member?
No, I'm not.
You're not. And if you were, who would you vote for, do you think?
Probably Rory Stewart. To ensure that
but he's out. You can't vote for him. He's out.
I know.
Roy, I have to say, you are sounding, and I had a couple of callers last night like this, you're sounding wearied by the process.
Oh.
It does look a bit like
Beyond the pale.
It does look a bit like the student union, doesn't it?
Oh, it's ridiculous. You think about it. We voted over 3 years.
3 years this Sunday. 3 years this Sunday. Absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah, they're still trying to do the debate.
I know.
Like, what?
I know.
What planet are these people on?
Roy, I don't know whether you're of that persuasion, but if I were you, I'd pour yourself a glass of something. Roy, thank you very much indeed for your call. And Roy is not alone. There are millions of people, and it is this Sunday. It's been 3 years. What the hell is going on? And tell me, are you sad that Rory's been knocked out? Drew is calling from Brighton. Drew, are you sad that Rory's been knocked out?
Not in the slightest, Nigel. Frankly, I don't understand why people aren't more excited for Michael Gove. That speech he gave yesterday about Corbyn, he's really been going at them. Boris, just like Cameron in 2015, just sleepwalking into this election. Did
Gove perform the best on television last night?
Well, I think when you consider how poor the BBC made the format, the only exciting bits were when Gove changed the subject, went after Corbyn, and really started to get some heat in there. That was the key for me, but it was basically a pub argument, if anything.
Yeah, it was a bit like that. I would agree with that. So, Drew, you want to see Gove go through and take on Boris, yeah?
I certainly do, yes.
And do you think there's any chance he could beat Boris if he gets into the last two?
Well, this is the thing. You have to think of the history since 1965. There has never been the front runner who won.
Yeah.
And if Boris can't answer these questions and is duck and diving, both party members like me, well, if we want to go around somewhere.
Well, the one thing, Drew, as a party member you will get is your chance to see the last two, because my understanding is there are a total of 16 hustings organised all over the country. So if
Indeed, I've applied already.
I'm sure you have. And so you're Gove all the way, Drew.
Oh, yes, definitely.
I got that. Thank you very much indeed for your call. A real Gove enthusiast there. Hi, Nigel. I am a Remainer, as are all of my friends and acquaintances. I can tell you, we all want Boris to win. He is the one man with so few scruples that we know he will renege on his word and deliver us a second referendum, says Matt in Lewisham. Well, Matt, you know, if it's a second referendum or a general election, he might think a second referendum is preferable because he wants to stay as Prime Minister. You may yet be right, Matt. I'm not sure you are, but you may yet be right. Boris supporters, I met a load of them last night. I was at a Daily Telegraph event last night. A lot of Boris supporters there, and they still absolutely believe that Boris will deliver and he will take us out on the 31st of October because he says so. I do have my doubts. Boris looked dampened last night, as if he'd been told to say as little as possible. He looked frustrated. He needs to get his mojo back and show the charisma that he has, says Angela. But Angela, where's he been for the whole campaign? In hiding. Why? Because he's ahead. But my experience of life is if you're ahead and you start to defend, things go wrong. You've got to keep out there. You've got to keep fighting. They've eliminated Dom Raab, who's the People's best Leave candidate, and Rory Stewart, the totally Remain candidate. So it's back to a tweet maze deal in some form or another. Waste of time, says David. And David, actually, do you know what? Of the four that are still in the race, they're all talking about going back to Brussels and renegotiating and it's not a deal, it's a treaty. My friend Michel Barnier has had it bound in leather. He ain't going to change it. Tom is a new caller from Bury St Edmunds in Suffolk. Good evening, Tom.
Good evening, Nigel.
So, Stewart out, Boris still ahead. Who's going to get through? Is it going to be Gove or Hunt to take him on?
Well, I think it's irrelevant, really. I think Boris has got this one in the bag. Whether or not some of his votes from the initial round were friendly, transferred over to Hunt to make sure that he goes through to battle.
Well, this is
Boris.
this is what Theo Usherwood thinks. Well, he thinks this could come to the fore tomorrow. And what did you make of? the whole Rory Stewart campaign. What did you make of that?
An interesting one. I think, having voted out myself, I was very much on the fence post with it. The wife voted very much in, and what the last round did, what yesterday did, was bring us very much together a little bit more on a common front with what Rory was trying to say.
Leavers and Remainers being brought together by Rory Stewart. This is remarkable.
Yeah, I know. It's just in the household, can't comment outside. But he did very well to listen to his words. He was being very realistic. People talking about the here and the now, tax cuts and everything else, what people demand. But he was very clear in saying that you can't give those if there's no money to, how can the goods and services that we're paying for with taxes, if you cut taxes, it's going to have a detrimental impact on everything else. And he was very clear with that. And I don't know, he just kind of spoke sense to both of us on that one. So that he's out.
You're sorry he's out? Yeah, that's interesting, Tom. That's interesting. Well, look, he did fight an imaginative campaign, but he was the Remain candidate, wasn't he?
Yeah, I suspect so. But then he's knuckled down to it and gone, right, yes, I did vote Remain, but he's been very clear since then that he is a Brexiteer now for the good of the country moving forward. And I believe that if it wasn't up to sort of Conservative MP votes, if it was put a little bit more to the people, or indeed to the wider Conservative party members.
Which it will be.
Yeah, now it will be, but not from yesterday's vote onwards.
Sure,
and that's a real shame. Actually, I don't think there's a fair representation.
Are you a Tory party member, Tom?
No, not. I vote Conservative, but I'm not an actual party member myself.
And if you were, assuming that it's Boris, and assuming it's Boris against Gove or Boris against Hunt, who would you vote for in those two scenarios?
I can't take Gove seriously. He looks like a cartoon character in every single photo or bit of film.
Poor old Michael.
Starting every sentence with, I have a plan.
I must admit, that sort of grin to camera, it is all a bit too much. So it wouldn't be... So if you... OK, all right, final question. If it was Hunt v Boris and you were a Leave voter, who would you vote for?
It would have to be Hunt, sadly. I think Boris has embarrassed himself on the international stage. He was a good London mayor. Being a Londoner myself back in the day, he did very well on a slightly smaller stage, but going on the international stage...
All right, well, Tom, thank you. Some Boris scepticism. If you're a Boris fan, 0345 6060 973. It is now 6:30 and time for the news with Thomas Watts.
Rory Stewart has been knocked out of the Tory leadership race after his support collapsed in the third round of voting. The International Development Secretary secured 27 votes, down 10 from yesterday's second ballot. Boris Johnson held his commanding lead ahead of further rounds of voting tomorrow. Jeremy Hunt and Michael Gove, who remain in second and third place respectively, will take calls live on LBC this evening. They're here with Ian Dale from 8 o'clock. Detectives investigating the death of Cardiff City footballer Emiliano Sala have arrested a man on suspicion of manslaughter. The footballer and his pilot came down in the English Channel in January en route from France to Wales. LBC weather. Showers clearing over eastern and southeast England tonight. Some lighter showers continuing in Wales, Scotland and Northern Ireland. A low of 5 degrees.
Nick Ferrari at breakfast. Weekday mornings from 7. LBC.
Was there a winner from last night's debate? Rory Stewart. Do you think it worked, that format?
It didn't work for me at all, did it? I mean, I didn't manage to get Boris to answer any of my questions. And what I found is that, in fact, it felt very aggressive. There were 5 men, all of us sitting on bar stools. The whole thing felt like we were about to start picking up the bar stools and swinging them at each other.
Nick Ferrari at breakfast.
With Xero. Get your business digital ready with Xero accounting software.
LBC.
Love the thrill of exploring? Fly British Airways and experience beyond the ordinary in Tobago. Waterfalls, rainforests, unspoilt beaches and turtles nesting. In Tobago, the undiscovered awaits around every corner. September holidays with flights and 7 nights hotel from $569 per person. Fly from Gatwick. Book by July 2nd at ba.com/Tobago. No one takes you there like British Airways. Booking fees and conditions may apply. Limited availability. ATOL protected.
Block management? It's a doddle, isn't it? I mean, once you've got budget approval, all you need to do is your service charge invoices,
health and safety regulations paperwork, do the cleaning, the gardening, general maintenance, sort out site inspections, arrange contracts, insurance, emergency representation.
Yes, block management. Such a doddle.
Save time and money and cut down on the stress. For complete block management solutions, just call ABC Estates. ABC will take care of all your day-to-day management, leaving you as happy as Larry.
For complete block management solutions, see abcestates.co.uk or call 0800 888 6688.
So much confusion. This deal or that deal. Why can't things be simple? It does sound like a bargain. What if you're being ripped off? Confused.com guaranteed to beat your renewal quote, helping you rise above the clamour of comparison sites. It's that easy. Beat your renewal quote guarantee, or you'll get the difference in an extra £20. Don't be confused. Be confused.com. Full T's and C's online. Single annual policies only.
Ever noticed expensive things always seem to break down when you can least afford them? So if your boiler is on the blink, the last thing you want is to fork out for expensive repairs or a replacement. Rated 5-star excellent on Trustpilot, LS1 Boiler Installation could supply and fit a brand new Worcester Bosch boiler with free breakdown cover and a 10-year guarantee, all with zero deposit and low monthly interest-free payment options. For an instant quote, go to ls1boilerinstallation.co.uk. Conditions apply.
At the AA, we're always trying to make your journey better. Our mechanics fix 8 out of 10 cars at the roadside, usually within 30 minutes of arriving. You could say we're simply the best. Oh, sorry, that's the wrong song. Join today from just £4.50 a month. Visit theaa.com. The AA, because anything can happen. New customers only. T's and C's apply.
Leading Britain's conversation, The Nigel Farage Show. Tweet at LBC using the hashtag #FarageOnLBC.
Because you'd think, wouldn't you, to listen to all the media, that actually there was just a Conservative Party in Britain, but there isn't. There's a Labour Party as well. Yes, there really, truly, honestly is. And today they had a shadow cabinet meeting. And Jeremy Corbyn, the leader of the party, came out and said it is now right to demand that any Brexit deal is put to a public vote. Now, he then goes on to sort of half contradict it and then say the same thing again. And actually the whole thing is unreadable, unintelligible, but there's absolutely no question. He says he's going to go and consult with the unions, but there's no question that the Parliamentary Labour Party is moving every single week towards being not just a second referendum party, but actually in many ways a Remain party. You remember Tom Watson speaking on Monday this week and almost in tears saying, Remain is in our hearts. That is who we are. It's our core value. And in response to all of this, a letter today from 26 backbench Labour MPs, most of them representing Leave constituencies, and in nearly every case, constituencies in which the Brexit Party smashed the Labour Party in the recent European elections. And they write, "Dear Jeremy, we write to you and the Shadow Cabinet in the aftermath of the local elections, the European elections and the Peterborough by-election. In 2017, our party campaigned on a pledge to respect the outcome of the 2016 referendum." They go on to say, Brexit must happen. A commitment from the Labour Party to a second referendum would be toxic to our bedrock Labour voters. And 26 of them have signed that letter today. And I do keep trying to say to everybody that whatever the Parliamentary Labour Party says, and Corbyn tries to resist them, whatever impression you get of what the Labour Party is as it moves towards being a proper all-out Remain party, do not forget, out there, in the north of England, in the Midlands, in South Wales, those three areas in particular, there are millions, perhaps up to 5 million, people who voted Brexit and voted for Corbyn in 2017. They too have problems on this issue. So, we've seen today Rory Stewart eliminated. What will happen now? Well, there'll be yet another round of the Student Union. No, sorry, it's the Conservative Party, isn't it? Yet another round will take place tomorrow morning. We'll get the result at 1 o'clock. Another of the candidates will be knocked out. And then tomorrow night at 6 o'clock, as I come on air, we will find out who are the last two. Boris Johnson is a cert. I think basically the argument is it going to be Hunt? Is it going to be Gove? Where's my money going? I think it'll be Hunt. But there we are. But as I say, please don't go down to the betting shop on the back of what I've said. But I think, and Theo Ashwood agrees with me, I think it's likely to be Hunt. So what do you make of the Fab Four that have gone through? What does it mean for British politics? Michael on Facebook says we're going to get a general election. None of these wooden tops can get us out. I must admit, I was left a bit with that impression last night. I felt after that debate we were less likely to leave on the 31st of October than I did before the debate began. Ruby said, it's sad that none of them are fit to run this country. God help us if any of the other lot get in. I think there'll be a general election. John says he wasn't that keen on Margaret Thatcher, but if she was still Prime Minister, we wouldn't be in this mess and we would have been out. Nigel, I've said from day one, there will be a second referendum, which is now the only way to sort out this mess, with two options, stay or leave with no deal. It's all well and good saying that, but, we'll vote to leave with no deal. And then what will happen? Will Parliament respect that? I wonder. Steve from Prescott, we've spoken before. Good evening.
Good evening, Sir Nigel. Congratulations on the EU results. Fantastic.
Well,
I campaigned in St Helens, Merseyside for you, my friend, and handing out leaflets was like giving candy to children.
well,
honestly, it was like, how many can you give me? I knocked on one door, and a gentleman took 50 off me, and he went round the rest of his street. I mean, it was amazing. It was absolutely
You're sure
amazing.
he didn't burn them, Steve, yeah?
No, he helped us. He helped us. It was amazing. It was amazing. Anyway, I think the BBC and Sky are trying.
And that's Steve. That's why these 26 Labour MPs have written to Jeremy Corbyn, because they're scared. But what of the Tory party, Steve? I mean, do you, as a obviously avid Brexiteer, Raab is out. Is Boris the man to deliver?
Well, I think Boris is playing games with the candidates, Nigel. I think this is an illusion of a contest, I would say. I think what happened was the campaign for Boris, obviously, they lent some votes to Rory Stewart last night to bump off Dominic Raab, and then they took them away. So it's a case of Boris giveth and Boris taketh away.
Do you really think that happened?
Yeah, I do. And what I do think, Nigel, is if this gets to a general election, it's going to be absolute carnage for the Tory party. After the 31st of October. It
depends, Steve.
Have to go for the second.
It depends. It depends if they deliver Brexit or not, doesn't it?
Absolutely. I think, Nigel, they are. Believe it or not, I think they're going to go for the second referendum because they are in absolute terror of the Brexit party. In terms of obviously the Tory party and the Labour Party, but on the Labour side, they're running in terror and fear of the Lib Dems. So for me, I think if either party, the Lib Dems or the Tory party, get to a general election, they will get minced on both sides. You are the kingmaker. You know this anyway. I don't need to tell you this. You are the kingmaker here because they're going to have to come to you to make a pact, because if they don't make a pact with you, they can't win the next general election.
Unless they decide, Steve, unless they decide second referendum's the way out, which, you never know, they could. Steve, I thank you. Chris is calling from Birmingham. Hi, Chris.
Hi, Nigel.
So, Rory's out. Are you pleased or disappointed?
Very disappointed.
Okay, tell me why.
I think the problem with modern politics is that we've gotten towards a point where vagueness is rewarded more than actual detail. We've reached a point where I like to call it, a lot of people refer to it as Trumpism from America and how that all went down, but I think that giving vague details without really giving any specifics, it has no place in politics, especially not over something as important as Brexit.
What specifics did Rory give them?
So the specifics Rory gave were mostly around, one, he actually had a deal, and he did point out the fact that the EU isn't open to renegotiate. He should have pointed out to Boris Johnson that WTO Article 24 won't work for the island border because it can't be applied in one way. It has to be agreed by both parties. I feel as though he was the only person there being realistic.
Well, Chris, I mean, here's the problem. That basically what Rory... And, by the way, I was very complimentary about the way he fought his campaign, about the chat we had here on Sunday morning on LBC. And I think he conducted himself in a very interesting way. He put himself out there. He wasn't hiding. He was interesting. He used social media, all of that. But, Chris, effectively what Rory was saying was, Mrs May's treaty is fabulous. Let's do it again.
I think what he was relying on now was the shock from the EU election, and specifically from your party and the Liberal Democrat Party, for obviously the Lib Dem affecting Labour and the Brexit Party affecting Conservatives, to hopefully whip them all into shape. I think that was kind of what he was relying on.
OK, well, he's out, Chris, and you're disappointed. Of the others, who would you like to see take on Boris Johnson?
OK, I think who you support now depends on if you're Remain or Leave. If you Remain, you're going to back Boris all the way through this.
Sorry, you mean if you'll Leave, you're going to back Boris?
No, if you Remain, you're going to back Boris, I think.
Right, OK, go on. Let's just keep that going for me, please.
So I think that because what happens with Boris is you either get a vote of no confidence, which a few Conservative MPs have already said they'd vote against the government if Boris was the Prime Minister.
Right.
Which will either result in a general election or second referendum, which gets the Remainers what they want. But if you support Leave, I think the best candidate is Jeremy Hunt.
Really? This is all very odd, Chris, isn't it? Because Hunt backed Remain in the referendum and Boris backed Leave, but you're suggesting it's now gone the other way around.
Boris said he backed Leave. If you actually see the footage from when the result comes in, Boris's face kind of drops when he realises that Leave won.
Well, that's not true, Chris, because he was actually holed up inside his house in London asleep, assuming, I guess, that Leave had lost.
I'm actually wondering if that was him hedging his bets at some point, because I don't believe that he actually supports the... I mean, you saw yesterday him very quickly and very slyly almost trying to backtrack away from no-deal Brexit. Exiting on...
I don't think he was very convincing. I agree. Chris, I thank you for your call. No, there's a lot of scepticism coming in for Boris Johnson here. I want to hear from Boris supporters. Please tell me that a lot of these callers have got this wrong. Please tell me that I've got it wrong and that I'm losing a bit of faith in him. Call me on 0345 6060 973 and tell me why Boris Johnson is top of the pops. You're listening to The Nigel Farage Show here on LBC. It is now 6:45 and time for the news headlines with Thomas Watts.
Rory Stewart has been eliminated from the Tory leadership race after his support collapsed in the third round of voting. The International Development Secretary secured 27 votes. That's down 10 from yesterday's second ballot. Boris Johnson held his commanding lead ahead of further rounds of voting tomorrow. Jeremy Hunt and Michael Gove, who are still in the race, will take calls live on LBC this evening. They'll be here with Ian Dale from 8 o'clock. Some light rain continuing in Wales, Scotland and Northern Ireland, a low of 5 degrees.
LBC Travel, I'm Jo-Louise Knight, and the Surrey stretch of the M25 has delays of around 2 hours anti-clockwise towards emergency repairs shortly after Gossamer Junction 6. Only 2 lanes are running. There's an accident on the clockwise M25 before 25 for the A10 and Enfield, which is closing 1 lane. It's causing delays back past Potter's Bar at Junction 24. There's a protest on Camden High Street. It's being blocked every so often near Camden Town Station. That's causing some queues. Onto the Underground, severe delays for the Jubilee line, severe delays for the District line from Wimbledon to Edgware, and on the trains, South Western are still severely disrupted because of the ongoing strike. There's a reduced service on their entire network.
Coming up at 7 on LBC, Ian Dale.
Seconds out, round 4. Rory Stewart is out. Sajid Javid clings on again. Gove is closing in on Hunt, and they'll both be joining me for an hour each from 8.
Ian Dale on LBC.
I don't expect to need legal advice anytime soon, but there's been several times when having a legal opinion on hand would have really helped. Because the family's growing up, there's more chance they'll need it too.
A legal defence membership means affordable advice 24/7 is only a phone call away. Legal Defence saves you 25% across all consumer and criminal law matters, from will preparation to buying or selling a house. To find out more, visit legaldefence.co.uk. Savings against standard Slater and Gordon fees.
So much confusion. This deal or that deal. Why can't this be simple? It does sound like a bargain. What if you're being ripped off? Confused.com guaranteed to beat your renewal quote, helping you rise above the clamour of comparison sites. It's that easy. Beat your renewal quote guarantee, or you'll get the difference in an extra £20. Don't be confused. Be confused.com. Full T's and C's online. Single annual policies only.
The Audi A4 Saloon Black Edition has dark matte titanium alloy wheels. It has a sleek black grille, a discreet black spoiler, blackened privacy glass and black leather Alcantara upholstery. So you see, when it comes to style, with the Audi A4 Saloon Black Edition, there are no grey areas. Available from £299 per month with an initial rental of £1,794. Offer ends 30th of June 2019. Audi. Vorsprung durch Technik. Business users only. Excludes VAT at 20%. 48-month contract hire. T's and C's apply. No ownership. Audi Financial Services. Visit audi.co.uk.
At the AA, we're always trying to make your journey better. Our mechanics fix 8 out of 10 cars at the roadside, usually within 30 minutes of arriving. You could say we're simply the best. Oh, sorry, that's the wrong song. Join today from just £4.50 a month. Visit theaa.com. The AA, because anything can happen. New customers only. T's and C's apply.
With my new teeth, I feel confident that I can eat absolutely anything I want to eat. French bread, steak.
At Darwood & Tanner, we use our expertise in dental implants to change lives.
It makes a huge difference in confidence when you can open your mouth and smile and laugh out loud with your mouth open without displaying huge amounts of grey, black or missing teeth.
Download your information pack at darwoodandtanner.co.uk today. Your smile is our healthy obsession.
Little Red Riding Hood has been trying to sell her grandma's home for some time now.
but the estate agent's shiny, sharp teeth have left her with sweat on her brow.
Trust me, darling, I just want what's best for you, hence the added fees.
However, she spoke to the friendly team at Property Rescue, who cut out the middleman and guaranteed a sale in as little as 48 hours with no fees whatsoever. Fast forward to living happily ever after. Visit propertyrescue.co.uk. Property Rescue. Fast forward to sold.
The Nigel Farage Show on LBC. Call 0345 6060 973.
Well, this time tomorrow we will know who the final two are going through into this contest. And of course, you know, the Conservative Party members will have 16 hustings to judge them around the country, and they will decide who the next Prime Minister is, which is why I take issue with Ollie from Basingstoke, who says by SMS, I see the debate as being something trivial, as only a small minority influence the outcome. Yeah, but Ollie, it's going to be the next Prime Minister of our country, and the world will see who it is. It is not trivial. Let's go to Ertan from Cheshunt. Good evening, Ertan. How are you?
Yeah, I'm well, Nigel. Thanks for taking my call.
Not one little bit. Now, I believe you are a Boris supporter, is that right?
Yes, I am indeed. Yes, absolutely.
And how do you think, because, you know, a lot of people out there, Ertan, particularly Leavers, have been putting a great degree of faith in Boris. And I've got to tell you that at the moment, a lot of them are beginning to scratch their heads a little bit.
Well, what Boris is good at, and I was a local activist in Enfield when Boris ran for Mayor of London both times.
Yep.
And what Boris is very, very good at is putting a team together. So when he was Mayor for London, he had an excellent team around him. And it's better than this shambles we've got now, certainly. And he delivered on a lot of policies. And that's where Boris excels. And he also put London back on the map. As Mayor for London, he really did promote London. We went forward, delivered on a lot of things. And I think he can deliver Brexit because he will put a good team together and make sure it's certainly better than the shambles.
So will he sack Ollie Robbins on day one?
I hope so.
You hope so?
I hope so. And I think he will. I don't think he'll hang on to someone like him. I think what he'll do initially, he will certainly sort of get his broom out and clean out the mess and the shambles that, unfortunately, Theresa May left behind.
If I take you at your word, and we say, OK, I'll agree with you. Boris managed a team, appointed good people who ran London really well, and he just was the salesman who gave a few speeches and made people smile. He then went on, of course, to very high office. He went on to become the Foreign Secretary. And what is really interesting, and he hasn't said much in this campaign, because, of course, he's been in hiding for most of it, I haven't heard him boast once about his time as Foreign Secretary. How would you assess his time as Foreign Secretary?
Muted.
You're struggling here, aren't you? Come on, you're struggling. You come on here as an activist and supporter, and you're struggling to defend him as...
No. Let me put it another way. Foreign Secretary was not his calling. I think the calling is for Boris to be PM of this country.
Hang on a second. If you can't hack it as Foreign Secretary, why would you hack it as Prime Minister, which is another even bigger stage up?
It's a different role. The Prime Minister is almost like the chairman of a big PLC. You put a good team together to make sure that ship is running well.
No, they're not. The Prime Minister is out in front and leading. And people like Thatcher were leaders, and people like Blair were leaders. And they told us they didn't delegate everything. In fact, the opposite is true in many ways. Many would say both Thatcher and Blair did too much themselves. But a leader is out there in front, telling us where we're going, not managing people as if it was a PLC.
I'll correct you there. Boris did that very well as mayor. He led a good team. And that's what I think he'll do as Prime Minister. He will lead a good team. And hopefully I might get a phone call and join him.
Well, it could be... No, I mean, listen, given that you're the first person tonight that's rung in to defend him, I mean, you might get a job, as you well say. I don't know. But what does he do, Tam? What does he do? You know, let's say he wins, which looks likely. He goes over to Brussels, but of course there's no one there because they're on holiday. I mean, there is no negotiation between now and the end of October. They're on holiday. They're selecting a new commission. Ertan, tell me, is your man going to get us out of the European Union on the 31st of October?
I hope he does. I think he's got more chance than the others, and it's possible the tactic is what some people believe is he knows and we know there's no one there to negotiate with, so the default position is we leave with no deal. Now, some people say that's not ideal, that's not the ideal position, but that may be the tactic.
Do you think he's a brave guy?
He can be. I've met him, quite a few times, and he is, despite the television and the radio persona, he is quite a strong character, and he does lead well.
OK, Tan, listen, thank you for your call. Thank you for sharing your experiences. And by the way, can I just say to you, I hope you're absolutely right about everything you've said. I really do genuinely hope that if he wins, he does the business. Thank you. Viv on Facebook says, Boris is a good negotiator, and if the EU don't listen, he will take us out with no deal because he wants to be the hero with the voters. Well, of course he wants to be the hero, but has he got the guts to do that? Alan says, Boris is doing the right thing, keeping himself subdued. Remember, he was the one who walked out, unlike Hunt, Gove and Davis. No, Davis did go. You're wrong about that. Well, look, I'm getting pro-Boris people coming on. I'm getting people coming on telling me that, he is going to do this, but listening to the words over the last few days, I'm struggling to be convinced. Sarah is calling from Oxford. Good evening, Sarah.
Hi, it's Worcester actually, not Oxford.
OK, right, sorry.
Hi, no, don't worry, Nigel. Good evening. Right, I'm very disappointed that Rory Stewart didn't get through.
Because?
Because he's the honest one amongst them all.
Really?
Why? It's quite easy why. Because he's the only one that doesn't want a job at the end of it. He does not want to work for that man, Mr. Johnson. I shan't even call him Boris because he doesn't deserve it.
That man. You obviously feel very strongly about him.
Oh, I certainly do, for good reasons. I don't know what the last caller completely delusional when you asked him how good he was as a foreign secretary.
I did, and he couldn't answer.
Muted. So, well, that just completely sums it all up. I'm extremely confused as to why Boris is doing so well so far.
Because he's got charisma, Sarah, because he's well known.
You need more charisma to run a country. Why isn't he out there talking to the media like all the other candidates? Why isn't he on all your LBC shows, etc., like all the other candidates? Why? I'll tell you for why. Because it's been hidden away just in case he comes out with a massive boo-boo and he makes yet another gas. There's a catalogue of things with him. You just have to look at his track record, how bad he was as a foreign secretary and as the mayor of London. You only have to, even last night, talking about the backstop, the EU have ruled that out. There's not going to be a transition period. The EU have ruled that one out. And when he was questioned about leaving on October the 31st, what was it? It's extremely feasible. Only a week ago when we heard a glimmer of what he had to say, he was saying it's absolutely definite. Oh, yes. But now it's only extremely feasible. In other words, there's wiggle room because he has no intention, because he knows darn rightly that it's not as easy as that. And all these voters that are voting for him and saying how good he is, why? Because, I'm sorry, the elephant in the room here is ignorance.
But Sarah, he's famous.
Oh,
and
an awful lot of people.
Well, hang on a second. Half the rest of this cabinet, most of the population wouldn't even know who they were. They couldn't pick them out of a lineup, and that does make a big difference. Have you always been opposed to Boris Johnson?
I haven't really put much thought into. I never liked him.
Right, she's gone.
But this is.
You're there.
Yes, I am here. It's the fact that he could not even stand up for what he believes in and get out there and present himself like the other candidates, apart from last night, because he can't be trusted. Now, if he can't be trusted to represent the Conservative Party, he caps the certainly can't be trusted
All right.
to represent the country.
Sarah, I've heard what you had to say on that very crackly line. Well, thank you, everybody. I'll be back tomorrow at 6 when we will get the last of these knockouts. We'll know who the final two are. And at 10 o'clock tonight, it's Ian Payne. He's going to be in for Tom Swarbrick. But up next with an exciting programme is Ian Dale.
Well, I hope so, Nigel. That's the plan anyway, because at 8 we have Jeremy Hunt, the Foreign Secretary, joining us for our 8th Battle for Prime Minister interview. And then at 9, the Environment Secretary, Michael Gove, will be with me for his hour. Still no word on whether we're going to get Boris Johnson. I live in hope. Now, I think these two are going to be very, very interesting indeed, because I think both of them have been a little bit opaque on their Brexit plans. I want to press them on that, but it's going to be your chance to put your questions to both